Welcome, everyone. I know it seems like it's probably feels like it's been forever, and it has been a while since Evan and I have been back. But I'm John, in case you forgot, and that's Evan over there.
Hello.
And we're your hosts today, and we're back. It's my fault really because I've been out of the country for a couple of months, but I'm back. And wow, what a time to come back!
Is Canada still out of the country? We haven't annexed it yet, right? I heard for a long time that that's what we were going to do, but I've
We
stayed out of the
haven't.
news.
They're not happy. I mean, they're cool. They actually are happy. People in Canada, that's where I was, are great. Really super nice people. Very, very, very welcoming. But not real happy about the whole political situation. But yeah, no, they're cool. Totally cool. And so it was a great trip. I was camping for 2 months. It's not as bad as it sounds because Canada's super beautiful. But no, they're not annexed. They definitely don't like Donald Trump. I had a beer. There was a beer in one of the towns. There's breweries everywhere, obviously, just like in the U.S. And one of the beers was called "Trump is a Dick." That was the name of the beer.
Okay.
So I had one. It was pretty good.
That is yeah, good for them, I guess. That's an interesting way to go.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of fans of our dear president up there. But we're back. I'm back. We're all back, and the Cubs are. I'm trying to assess because I was away for a while. I wasn't able to watch like every game. I was just able to kind of catch up here and there. And it seemed like they were kind of moving along. They haven't had any real long streaks, unlike the Brewers, who've now had, I think, 2 10+ game winning streaks. And boy, that'll do a lot for you and the standings. And certainly it's helping the Brewers. And so it's like, it's hard to feel real bad about what the Cubs are doing because they're still record wise, they're still kind of doing all right. And if you look at the wild card, they're still, in first in the wild card ahead of the Dodgers, right? I mean, who would have thought? And the team in fourth is the Reds. I mean, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, the Giants. You don't feel like there's a lot of pressure coming down from below. And it's just a matter of like, can the Cubs get their bats working again? It's just, that's the weird thing is like the offense and what's happening there, but they're still winning here and there.
Yeah, I mean, they're not playing well, right? Nobody's gonna lie to you there. And I think it's the tide is starting to turn a little because there was a while there, like when the Brewers were making their initial climb, right? Because if we go back a couple months, like the Cubs were like 8 games back, 7.5 games back. Now I think at one point last night they were at 8 because the Brewers had won previously. But the Cubs were like 6.5 ahead of them. If you look back, like the Brewers were 3 games under 500. Cubs are 6.5 ahead. Division looked like it was theirs for the taking. And, the Cubs kept playing pretty well, but the Brewers have just been out of their minds for like 2 months. They're, again, we consider they used to be 3 under. They've been on this stretch where they're more than 30 games over 500 in the space of like 2 months. I mean, it's something like
it's crazy.
It's like they're 50-20 or something. It's close to that. It might be like 48-18 or what. Like, so at a certain point, you look at it. So if you just take are agnostic to what the Cubs have done, you just look at it and go, okay, the Brewers have the best record in baseball, like by 4 or 5 games over anyway. Like, no one is close to the Brewers. Period. Like, end of sentence. So, and they're on like a better than 120 win pace. So just set that aside. Now, as you noted there, the Cubs have not been playing great. The thing that's helped, and I wrote this up, I think it was yesterday, they've got like the best starting rotation in baseball since the start of June, or the start of July at least, somewhere in there. And certainly in the second half, like but, there's a point at which, and we've seen this, like I forget what did they say? It was up there last night. Like the Cubs haven't won a game in which they've trailed in weeks now, right? And therein lies the problem. Like the rotation's been very good. However, a mix of injuries and different things. They're using bullpen games. They got a bunch of dudes. You know, Cade Horton's already surpassed a career high for innings. Ben Brown has surpassed a career high. Matt Boyd has pitched more innings than he has since 2019 by a very broad margin. And so they're trying to balance all this stuff. The bats have got to come around because right now, like again, the rotation's holding them. The bullpen was really good for a while, then got shaky. The offense has disappeared. If the offense doesn't come back in a big way, that runs into a huge problem because now you start getting into you're trying to manage all these guys. Well, now I'm pulling, I got to pull Horton at 75 pitches and Brown can't go deep and he's serving more middle relief. And then you trade for Michael Soroka and he goes 2 innings before going on the IL. It's like, and guys are coming back. Javier Assad's back now. It's kind of rough, but he's back. Jameson Taillon will be back next week. It's helpful, but and this is mine. Like water is leaking into the boat. All Craig Counsell can do at this point is just keep getting out the bucket brigade and bailing out water from the hull so the ship doesn't sink. Because the Cubs are in an okay position, but it doesn't feel as though they've got 5 games with the Brewers starting on Monday. That's the inflection point of the season. I don't think they can
It really is.
Regardless, right? But I mean, hey, 5-game sweep of the Brewers, different story. Highly, highly, highly unlikely. But now you're their margins aren't real great, right? When it comes to the wild card and even the rest of the division. Again, talk about kind of all these things happening. Like they run the risk of kind of getting out over their skis too far. If because again, you talk about 5-inning starts in most cases, unless they're super efficient. You're talking about all your top hitters are slumping at the same time for the most part. So that's the part that I have concerns with. Not where they are now in the standings. It's when I look at how they've gotten there, what happens in these next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe not even that long, because it could catch up to them in a hurry if the bats don't come back around very, very soon.
Well, and it's projecting forward more than it is just trying to make the playoffs, right? I mean, I think the Cubs are going to make the playoffs. I mean, it'd have to be a total meltdown disaster completely. And I just don't see that happening. But the problem is what happens when they get into the playoffs? I mean, it's fun to make the playoffs and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we fans want to win a World Series more than one, but one is a good start. That's the objective, right? It's not just to make it to the playoffs. And it really feels like I'm trying to figure out who's to blame in all of this, right? Like where we are
John,
as a team.
I'm saying, if you had stayed in America like a true patriot, like the rest of us, you're wearing your red, white, and blue on your Cubs hat, but you skedaddled off north of the border for most of the middle of the
true
season
north. Our fans to blame. I'm being serious with this. Our Cubs fans to blame. And the reason I say that is because Cubs fans go and we love our team like no other. And we're very committed. And that stadium gets filled up. Wrigley Field gets filled up no matter what. And Tom Ricketts looks at his bank account and he knows just simple mediocrity is all you need. Now, I mean, is the payroll up there? Yeah, it's up there, but it's not. I mean, the Cubs could have done a lot more at the trade deadline than they did. They didn't do anything. And I saw comments from Anthony Rizzo a week or so ago talking about 2017 compared to 16 and how bringing in Chapman was just such a big deal for the whole team and the message that it sent, going and getting that big piece. And that didn't really happen in 2017. And you could argue, they made some moves, but it wasn't that trade deadline, big move. And it feels like that happened again this year. Well, it definitely happened again this year. And so they didn't make that big move. They didn't go for it, so to speak, where there were some pretty clear areas that they needed to improve. And there were some opportunities that they could have gone out and gotten some guys. And I saw, who was it? Carter Hawkins, I think, said something like
stuff you can't
there.
Because you don't want to cost. Don't want to cut in.
I'm like, what the hell?
And here's the thing: is on one hand, people took that and ran with it a little too far. Be like, they're playing for 2030. They're not going to be competitive. That's not the.
I get it.
but
it's
he's got to
bad.
know better. Like it's bad optics. It's bad, which is funny because like the one thing that this front office has done consistently well is not put their foot in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like they say things without saying things.
And we don't hear from Carter Hawkins all that often either, and there's probably a reason for that.
Well, and there, I look at this. I mean, there's no right. We can't blame anyone. Oh, hey, well, we got a lineup. We've got 4 people in the lineup so far that there no big. I'm updating it. I've only got the top 4 batters. Apparently, Craig only sent half his lineup to Vegas.
Where did you see that?
Bush, Hap, Tucker, and Kelly so far. That is on the MLB Game Day website.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm on the Cubs website and I'm looking at them refreshing, and it's not there yet.
Yeah, that's what I've just got. Just those 4 batters is all I've got so far.
Cubs are going with 4 batters today.
But if those 4 can do something, most of the time they've only got 4 guys in the lineup who are doing anything anyway. If that might even be too many. Speaking of which, it was funny because I noted yesterday that going up against Kevin Gossman, who is a massive reverse split pitcher, right? He's a righty, but he handles lefties a lot better. And I was like, it's kind of interesting that given this and their struggles, they're going with 4 lefty batters out of the top 5. And somebody's like, well, Hap's a switch hitter. I'm like, where does he bat against righties, dude? Like, this is the kind of stuff that just makes me want to stop doing it. I'm like, I think this person was saying that in earnest as well. Like, but yeah, Hap's only in his life ever batted left-handed against righties. He's not just going to switch around and face this guy from the right side because you're like, oh, the split's my favorite. Yeah, but when you've never seen that look before, it's not going to work out real well. But anyway, we talk about like who's to blame and whatever. And at some point here, I'll probably stop talking so I can type out the lineup. Unless I just paste it in there. I did say that Kreger's took his sweet ass time on it. So you might not get many details on that. We'll see how that goes. But there's a variety of things. But to me, one of the biggest issues, just overall with the way this team, we talked about Hawkins, we talked about Jed Hoyer, kind of the way they address the public in most cases. But my problem with it is like Hoyer has always been, we've talked about this too many times to repeat it, but I'll do it anyway, kind of the by the book spreadsheet guy, right? This is, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to sit at the blackjack table. I'm playing a $5, $5 minimum. I've got $100. When that $100 is gone, one way or the other, I am done, right? Like I'm out. If it gets to that point, if it turns into I got to go back to the ATM, I'm done. And guess what? If I get to 120, I'm walking away from the table. You know what I mean? Or it's more like if I get down, I'm going to start with 100. If I get down to 20, I'm walking away. If I get up 20, I'm walking away. Like it is very conservative. And I think, Theo Epstein was more the big swings. Like, hey, I'll keep pushing. I'll try to make, and so Hoyer kind of balanced them a little bit, or they balanced each other, right? Jed would kind of pull the reins a little bit, or Theo would bring Jed over. And to me, Carter Hawkins is not that kind of that balancing point. He's not the yin yang. He's like at least as conservative as Hoyer is, maybe more so. And I don't want to say he's not, but he didn't come up like Jed and Theo came up together. They were the hotshot kids coming up through the Red Sox organization, right? And kind of had that bouncing off each other, more of that friendship. And I'm not saying Hawkins isn't. It is kind of a flat hierarchy, but it does feel like A, there's more of a subordinate relationship going on between the two of them, and B, that Hawkins is not challenging Jed's way of thinking in an aggressive sense. And so what you have is just this kind of entropy, it feels like, in which they're not trying to build momentum. They're just we're talking Canada, right? What are you doing? They got curling. You're just trying to like keep enough to get that rock to that one point, right? You're trying to get that curling stone in there. So they take the little brushes and they get it, and that's all you're trying to do is get it to that spot. And I feel like that's all these guys are trying to, like they said, thread the needle all the time. But again, I'm going with Canada. They're trying to just get that thing right to that perfect point. and settle it, versus like just trying to, I don't know, get crazy with it and just throw a bunch of darts at the board and hope one sticks. And neither is great, but the Cubs have the financial means that they should be able to take some more risks, to throw a few more darts at the board. These guys feel like they're just saying, nope, I got these 3 darts and I'm just going to do my best. And I'm not even going for the bullseye because that's too risky. I might miss. You know what I mean? Like that. I'm making like 15 different analogies, none of which have probably landed. But
no, and it to me, it feels like this is a Ricketts problem insofar as he's fine with what Jed Hoyer has been doing.
Caissie at DH. Sorry. Owen Caissie, batting 5th, DH.
So we'll see what happens. Batting 5th, interesting. Right behind Carson Kelly. So it's Bush, Happ, Tucker, Kelly, Caissie, Horner, Castro, Swanson, and Shaw. Are we seeing Castro more than you thought we would?
A little bit, especially because, for lack of a better term, he's been ass with the Cubs. I know it's not that many, but he's got like a 17 WRC plus. We're not talking about a huge sample, but the dude started like 8 or 9 games now. Like he's played a lot since they got him. And now I think part of that's out of necessity because so many other players are hitting like crap, but he's not been good. Like that's a lot of, he's playing in center for PCA today, and PCA's been bad, but Castro's been really bad. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's just, and so going back to the team and where the Cubs are is, man, like if you go back to the very beginning, right? When I don't even, was it 2009? When did Ricketts buy the team? Something like that.
Yeah, close enough.
A while ago. He came in and just the moves that he made and bringing Theo in, and it was just kind of like, wow, now we've got the owner, and he did the things that needed to be done to get the World Series. And then like, it was like, all right, it was kind of like he felt like he could just perform really well up front and then just ride that and then just be mediocre from there on out. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's like, man, as a fan, you want the guy who's just keeps putting the pressure on and just keeps going and wants to win, like has that just like drive to win, like Steve Cohen, like that guy wants to win, right? He'll do anything to win. And Tom Ricketts is not that guy. He's the guy who's like just looking at his bank account. He tries to take a conservative approach to everything. And it's sad because that's not what he sold us as Cubs fans. And we love going to Wrigley, like I was saying, and it's nice to be there, and it's on a beautiful day. There's no better place to be. But yet here we are. And this is just a byproduct of, it just feels like it's going to continue. And like, how do we cope with this if there's no real change in sight? Like how do things change?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, and this is kind of one of the things that that we've brought up, a few times, and I think it's just more like, what would you do, if you just had fun money, just straight up FU money, which, to most
billions of dollars
Tom Ricketts has, but I think the thing that we've all got to remember, right, there's still a huge gap between the money that the Ricketts family has and the money that like Steve Cohen has, right? Or you see like the Lakers just sold for whatever it was, $5 or $6 billion, and these people have all this, and it's like this was done and sold, because they had the Ricketts kids had to get the money from Papa Joe, and it was purchased as using the idea that Wrigley always sells out as it's an investment. That's what this is. Are you dipping into your 401k regularly? Is that what people, that the whole point? If you're dipping into your 401k routinely over the course of your employment, you're not going to have anything left when you retire. Now, I'm not saying those are the exact same thing, but that's how Ricketts views this, right? Is that the goal?
Yeah, but look how much the Cubs are worth.
Oh no, I get
the appreciation of the team.
But what he doesn't get that until he sells it. So unless he does, but why would he? Because if the value keeps going up, and I think you and I can both agree, and everyone else, I think we're both pragmatic enough to understand that the amount of money the Cubs are making profit-wise is not nearly as great probably as what a lot of fans think. Like I think a lot of people believe they're just, screwing everybody over. I don't really think that's the case given the debt that they've got and all the development they've done and purchases in the area. Obviously they're making money. They're not losing money on it. But I think at the end of the day, he's perfectly happy, kind of in the Jed Hoyer thing, to where it's like, well, I could, in theory, make more money by having a better team and spending more money on the team, but the asset keeps appreciating. Even if the Cubs suck, the valuation of the club has gone up year after year after year significantly.
And they have sucked.
Yeah, and
they
have
sucked.
A couple of years. I mean, the last few, they haven't been in the playoffs the last several years. Doesn't change the value of the team. And so I think he's looking at this going like, he's looking at billions versus millions and saying, hey, if I keep appreciating this massive asset, regardless of what happens on the field, why would I, put anything at risk because again, I think their ability to actually pay that, their liquidity in terms of paying out these massive salaries, like what you see with some of these other teams, I think their ability to do that is less than what we would see from many other kind of big market ownership groups. And so as a result, they're footing that or foregoing that risk in favor of the much more sure thing that their asset's going to develop regardless of what they do on the field. I think they want to be competitive, but
again, that's
not gonna
our fault.
Yeah.
That is
It's
our fault as
fault.
fans,
Not my
because
fault.
we're going to the games, we're buying the hats, we're going to spring training, we're spending all the money. If they weren't filling that stadium and they were, if the stadium was a quarter to a half full every game when they were mediocre, it'd be a different story. But it's not.
If it's less than half, they need it half full to basically break even on operations. Right? I think that's what Crane Kenny has said. So as long as the ballpark is half full, they basically break even on Wrigley Field ballpark operations. 51% full and above, they're making money.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm guessing the average attendance is somewhere in the mid to low 30s, which I think it holds about 42.
It's pretty significant, right? Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're doing fine in that regard. And if I seem distracted, I'm posting the lineup right now. So
yeah,
I typed a few.
So it's frustrating to see where the Cubs are right now. I mean, forget about what the Brewers are doing. It's really crazy to see them just going and winning and winning and winning. And you're right. Next week, those 5 games, it's going to be a make or break situation for the Cubs season. Because if they lose 5 games in a row, which, I mean, given how the Brewers are winning constantly, it could very well happen. That could bump the Cubs out of the wild card race. And again, but if you look at the teams they're competing with in the wild card, you don't really feel like, you feel like they can beat them out, right? Like, I mean, the Reds, the D-backs, the Cardinals, you don't really feel too threatened by any of those teams, no matter really kind of what. And so the Cubs will make the playoffs. I feel comfortable that the Cubs will make the playoffs. And if they don't and they do lose out to the Reds or the Cardinals, there should
How's that extension for Hoyer look if that happens?
He's so happy. Crap. He's like, whoop, I just got that done.
Woo. Yeah, dodged the bullet on that one. Right? Oh, boy.
Somebody's saying, would you rather win the battles or win the war? I don't know what you mean, because I don't know what the battles are and what the war is. To me, the war is winning the World Series.
Wins above replacement, nowhere near. It's a catch-all metric. Would you rather win the WOBA or the WRC Plus? That is the real question.
That is.
I'd rather win both. I think you're gonna be fine on. If you're winning one, you're probably winning the other.
One, you're probably winning both.
Yeah. Although I guess it depends on. Yeah. So the war is a little bit more inclusive of defense, so that'd be a little bit different. And every time I think about that too, I had a buddy in high school who did the quote, war. Huh? Good God. What is it good for? And then he led into his speech about war or something like that. And it was like the funniest, most awkward thing in the world. Like every time that comes up, I think about this dude. And and that is just, it makes me laugh. So, yeah. So I'm getting this up on Facebook. Owen Caissie is in the
So the Cubs are
lineup.
going up against Max Scherzer today.
I've heard of him.
He's not having as good a year as he's had in the past. And
well, he's only pitched 10 games. This is only his 10th start, I think. So
you feel like he's 4.21 ERA. You feel like you and Matthew Boyd, I really cringed the other day when I was watching Boyd pitch, and Boog called Matthew Boyd the Cubs ace.
I mean, he has been,
but he's not. And so, I mean, listen.
I mean,
if he's pitching
but he is. Who he is?
I don't think we should say that out loud, though.
It's not a no-hitter. You can say it. You can talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. No. It's just money. When you're in a position, no matter what team you are, if you're a team that feels like you should be in contention every single year, and you've got to call Matthew Boyd your ace.
But I mean, but as
Shota Imanaga is the Cubs' ace at this point.
He should be. Ideally, you would like for that to be the case, but to me, ace is kind of a fungible term, right? That we can apply to whomever it. I mean, at this point, if we're going second half, then it's Cade Horton, right? I mean, Cade Horton's been pitching lights out
for now until he hits his limit. Like when did they?
For the time being, but that's the problem. But like and that's what I know. A lot of people bitch about it. The last few games have been like, "Well, you pull him." Like my dude's, he's 8 innings away right now. He's at 114 innings. He only had 122 combined, and that's 114 between the Cubs and the Iowa Cubs total. Yeah. But he only had that's 114 this year. He's only had 122 previous professional innings in parts of his 2 seasons. And we got to remember, this is also a dude who suffered a UCL tear in college and only pitched like 55 innings total ever at Oklahoma. And that was in his 1 season that he pitched there. So this is not a dude who they could, like, I think everybody wants to just be able to let him rip. I don't think it'll be, unless there's something we don't know about. But if people recall back to Steven Strasburg, when he was coming back, and they said flat out, like he and his team and his agent, like told the Nats, like, look, here's the deal. This is the limit for the year. If he hits it, he's not pitching in the postseason. And this is when the Nats were actually good, and they shut him down. He did not pitch in the postseason. The Cubs don't want to run into that. And I know there are much, much better ways of actually measuring workload now. I've never been a proponent of innings, specifically because, as we've seen, you can go out there and throw a 3-pitch inning, or you can go out there and throw a 30-pitch inning. Which is one of those is significantly worse, right? So, or I could go out and if I did that, I could get a complete game in 70 pitches. That's 9 innings. Or I could go out there and take 100 pitches to get through 4 innings. If I'm only measuring by innings, that's dumb. So there are ways to measure, acute workload in game and then chronic workload over time.
Yeah.
And how does that balance?
Do you think
you saw him look good yesterday. So
is there a number though? Do you think? I mean, whether it's innings or pitches or what, do you think the Cubs have a number where they shut him down?
I mean, I don't think so.
It hasn't been communicated.
No, and I don't think they would if that were the case. But I think it's more a matter of making sure, because he did have some extra rest this time. Try to build those things in, move things along, and how do you get that rest in between? And they can measure that stuff. So I don't know if doesn't look like he's wearing a sleeve of any sort during a game. And I don't know if he's wearing like a driveline pulse monitor when he's doing his in-between workouts. But I think it just comes down to making sure that workload is managed properly and not getting that situation. I mean, the dude hit 98 yesterday, which was nice to see, right? Those are things that I think they'll be very, very careful with monitoring. But again, when we talk about wherever we want to assign that ace category, the problem is that 2 of the 3 potential guys and 2 of the 3 who would be in their playoff rotation, which is Horton and Boyd, as we discussed, Boyd hadn't thrown, he hadn't even gotten to 80 innings in any season since 2019, right? So this is a dude who's had several injuries, and now he's at 135 or something like that, right? Like And even some of the backup dudes like Ben Brown. Again, this is a dude who's never pitched a ton. I don't know if he's ever exceeded 100 in a professional season, maybe once
Sure,
before.
I want him pitching a ton.
Well, yeah, that's another story, I guess. But then, Imanaga only his second year in the majors, and he's already dealt with an injury this year. You've got, Tyon hasn't been, obviously he's been out for a while now, but he's not been the workhorse guy that we expected. And so that to me is where we get into this. The Cubs put themselves in this position early, so we go back to blame or whatever. But they knew going into the season, they're Tommy Hotovy even said it. They were only expecting to get 120 innings. If they got 120 innings out of Boyd, they would have been happy.
Yeah.
Well, they've blown past that, and we're still in mid-August, right? So
and so this really points
weird.
And it really points something out, right? Which is a point that you made in the article you wrote the other day. The Cubs starting pitching, yeah, it's been great. It's been elite. It's been, the best in Major League Baseball. But over that same period of time, their bullpen's been the worst. Man, What a stark contrast. I mean, I'm looking right now since July 1st, the Cubs have the worst bullpen in all of baseball.
It's not been good.
And how do you counter that? Like, right? I mean, like if you look at the Cubs bullpen right now, I mean, who is are there two guys that you can look at and be like, those two guys I can rely on? Keller, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, and Palencia now, but that was only after how much trial and error and injuries with other, because it was supposed to be Ryan Presley, and that clearly failed miserably. Caissie, like, never ever go get relievers from the Astros again, apparently, who have been with the Astros at any point. But like Julian Merriweather was supposed to be a dude back there. He's gone. Porter Hodge was supposed to be a guy. He's been back and forth with injuries and wasn't as good as expected. And, Palencia has really stepped it up. But you've got this mix of other guys. And again, there's that whole Ouroboros, right? The snake eating its tail, because the bullpen wasn't very good at first, and then it got really, really good for a while. But then the starting rotation wasn't quite as good. And now you've got this rotation where guys can't go deep into games. Well, guess what that means? Got to rely more on the bullpen. And to that end, more on guys who aren't supposed to be in high leverage situations, right? Because you got to preserve them for the bigger ones. So if it is the fourth or fifth inning, you got to dip into the pen. Now you're using guys, they're maybe getting exposed. They're having to pitch more often than they need to or should have to, right? And then then it cycles back around. Now you might have to make a starting pitcher wear one for a while, because you got to get those extra innings out of him.
Yeah.
Because you can't. And so it just.
But who, right? Like, right. At this point, who?
Right. And that's just the issue. Did the bullpen ever look good since okay, come on. We're not even, let's go. They've had a good bullpen in the past. And typically the bullpen has been okay, right? But therein lies the issue. We talked about it earlier. Here's the problem. Starting pitching's been really good. Offense, not really good. And so you're running into these situations where all these games, you're getting into the fourth, the fifth, the sixth inning. Even if it's not with a lead, it's at least a very close game. They might be 1-1, 2-1, 3-2, whatever the case. The Cubs are in it, right? But now you've got a struggling bullpen with a struggling offense. Does not bode well for the last 3, 4, 5 innings of games. And
with guys now, you need to watch their innings on.
Right. And so then that's what you kind of know that going in. And where else do you turn? Right. It's not like they've got a wealth of arms to come up from the farm system that they can just keep kind of running them out there. So again, it all goes back to the offense. And this is we're not even having this conversation. If Seiya Suzuki has been ass in the second half and for a while here. Kyle Tucker's been awful and here's the thing. I will say this. It wasn't until last night, and he did square up a couple balls pretty well, just right at guys. His WRC plus in the second half only just dropped down below 100. It's only now at 96 because the dude is still drawing walks at almost a 20% rate. Like he's hitting 200 in the second half. He's batting 200. His on base percentage is 364.
Yeah,
like that is an incredible on base percentage
and that's
for
saving him.
Right. That's the only thing. Right. If he's got a normal, even if you're so like 100 points, and I'm sure people know this, But if your OBP is 100 points above your batting average, that's pretty good. That's really good, actually, right? He's 164 points above. So, like, 364 on base is good regardless. That would be awesome. However, my problem is right now, here's the difference. Batting 200, like Kyle Schwarber can get away with batting 200 because he's going to hit 40-some bombs. Tucker's only got one homer in the second half. His ISO in the second half, which is, people look at slugging, but ISO is more raw power, is .071. The league average is like 155 or somewhere in there. So he's less than half. His power is gone. I don't know if it's still the finger thing. He hurt his finger back at the beginning of June in that sliding into second base against the Reds. Is that his bat speed has remained the same? Like nothing in that regard, like no kind of underlying metrics that we can look at say much for it, but he has stopped hitting the ball in the air as much. So his fly balls have dropped, his ground balls have gone up, and he's not pulling or going oppo either. It's more stuff just up the middle. So it's like he's not catching the ball out front as well. So again, I don't know if is it tentative because that's his, it's his right hand, so it's the bottom hand, so it's not like the power itself should be an issue, but it's still clearly something is dogging him because the power is almost disappeared. And so getting on base is great. That would be awesome if you're a leadoff hitter or if you're down at the bottom of the order. But when you're the 2-3 hitter and when you're a guy bucking for a $500 million contract, you cannot get by with batting 071 ISO with not hitting for power at all. It's just terrible.
Yeah, you got to feel like he's going to come back around if it's not an injury. And I mean, at the end of the day, really, if you look at the Cubs season as a whole, they haven't had a real big, long winning streak, but they haven't had a real big, long losing streak. They've been swept a couple times. I mean, they really haven't been swept a lot. They haven't swept other teams. They don't have a lot of sweeps themselves. And so it's just like this. They're not doing real great. They're not doing real bad. They're just kind of like, and so for me, I think, all right, what's the plan going into the postseason? Like as a week, you can't control what the Brewers are doing outside of the 5 games you're going to play against them next week. And so what they do and how they go forward. And, to me, I feel pretty good because like there's still a month and a half left, right? There's ample time for things to turn around here. And so I'm not all that concerned. I'm concerned about the things that we've been talking about, like the innings that some of these guys are coming up against, but it also feels good that, the Cubs have a couple starting pitchers coming back. And so it feels like there's some things to counter the bad kind of things you feel bad about, but it's just as you go into the playoffs and you get to that point, and assuming the Cubs actually make it to the playoffs, I just wonder what the plan is in terms of like, who's your, do you go with 3 or 4 pitchers? Like how many starting pitchers do you go with? Who's there to go with? Is Cade Horton part of that?
He better be. Well better be. If he's not, then I'm.
Yeah.
I mean,
and how do you get him there?
What are we doing? Yeah, and well, and that's the thing, right? Is like they're basically they're going to have to keep going 6-man, kind of moving some of this stuff along, giving guys extra rest down the way, and that applies to both Horton and Boyd, and I mean possibly Imanaga, possibly Tyon as well, right? So if you have all those guys, I guess it applies to everyone in the rotation if you go with 6 guys, because they kind of have to, because then you get Soroka back maybe in September, which is like, think about that. Like if you told me 2 months ago that I'd be sitting here like crossing my fingers that Michael Soroka can make it back by September, I'd have told you just go ahead and kick me in the dick and get it over with. But this is, again, something's got to turn around, right? And that's the thing. The rotation in and of itself has been fine.
Even with all the injuries,
right? Even with all the injuries, they've kept pitching really well. But this is by design, even though, and they should have probably gone with a 6-man rotation to begin with, as I've been telling them to do for 2 years. They don't listen to me. nor probably should they. But it's not designed to go deep, right? But that's where like Colin Ray wasn't supposed to be in the rotation. He's supposed to be kind of that swingman. Javier Assad wasn't supposed to be on the IL for the entire season up until last night. So there's another guy who serves those middle innings. So that's, I think they wanted to have that 5-inning starter with 2 innings of middle relief and then kind of 3 innings at the back end. That obviously has not worked out for a variety of reasons and best laid plans and all that. I think that's another part of the problem. But that is my concern, and it has been. And I know, and early on, a lot of people got on me. We clipped an episode of a segment of this a while back when I said this rotation isn't scary. And everybody's like, "Well, they're doing fine. They're really good. You're dumb. You don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, all right, so that's fine. But honestly, I mean, tell me this: like the Cubs' 3 best pitchers. And I don't mean just right now. It is right now, but in general, if you're telling me it's Boyd, Imanaga, Horton, I feel really good about those guys individually on a daily basis, normal situation, right? I mean, and the Blue Jays are a very good team. We saw Horton go and shut them down. Ideally Boyd does the same. But do you trust, like, would you put those 3 up against the Brewers' top 3 and say, all right, you give us your best, we'll give you our best, and here you go? And maybe you say, yeah, that's cool. But then what happens? Those guys aren't all pitching complete games, and the offense has got to score runs. So I like just right now with the way they're playing, I don't like it at all. You give me an offense that's scoring 5-6 runs a game again routinely, and therein lies the problem. They're fine.
And that's the thing is, listen, baseball is cyclical. It is. There's a big long season, 162 games, and there's a lot of ups and downs no matter what team. I mean, I thought the Dodgers were going to win 140 games, and maybe not quite that, but looking at their team, I'm just shocked at the way that's played out. That's a different story.
The Mets have been playing like ass lately too. Like they've been terrible.
I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs, and so as good as the Brewers are playing right now, I don't believe they're not going to finish the season like this. They are not going to finish. They're not going to get 120 wins. It's not going to happen. I'm looking for their September to be.
Mark, when did that happen?
Down.
That happened at the 42-30-ish mark. We got to tell Blake so he can clip that part and then put that out there because Brewers fans will eat that up.
Yeah. Well, it's true though.
I would hope so. It better be true.
Yeah. It can start because listen, the Cubs play the Blue Jays today. If they get a win, they've won the series. And Toronto's a damn good team. And so for them to go into Toronto and take 2 out of 3, that's a big success. And then they've got 3 against the Pirates, which they should take. Man, it'd be nice if they could get a sweep here and there. So if they could take 2 out of 3 or all 3 over the weekend and build just a little bit of momentum going into this Brewers series at Wrigley Field, people need to show up, and I'm sure they will. And, I mean, like in 1 week, things could change dramatically, right? We could be looking at a completely different situation in 1 week. And so that's just baseball. And like I said, I feel good because it's the middle of August, and it does feel like this could all fall into place as chaotic as it feels right now.
No, and again, it goes with, Dansby Swanson talks about it. It might just be one swing. It could be just things break in the right way. And that's, the other thing that I think, and we can quantify it in certain ways, but it's a little bit difficult, but you watch what the Brewers are doing and like, they're getting every single break as well. And part of that comes just when you're playing well, things go your way, but things are like not going the Cubs way. You get freaking Miguel Amaya. Goodness, he comes back first game back off the 60-day IL. Man, I tell you what though, and this is like I felt like when I wrote that up last night, because it looked to me just like, and this is what I wrote in there, when Bryce Harper, I thought Harper had blown out his knee for sure a few years ago when he stepped on first base funny, and they brought up the whole thing about like how hard and slick the bases are, and they wanted to go with more of the pillow bag. Like Scott Boras brought this all up. It ended up being just a bone bruise in his knee, which still very painful. But then same thing, when I saw Amaya, I was just trying to be like, hey, maybe it's not bad. And it wasn't. It ended up being an ankle sprain, which is shocking to me because seeing that
looked bad. It looked really
live
bad.
And then the replay, I was like, his leg
kind
locked
of,
out. I was like,
yeah,
that's an ACL or an Achilles or so. Like it's
or
bad.
both.
And yeah, like the whole. I thought something was torn. Apparently, it's just an ankle sprain. I have to imagine it's a pretty severe one because that, like, the thing that got me though was not even watching it, but when you see a dude, when you see an athlete like that in tears covering their face, that's the word. Like that's the sign right there. That, like
And he's
I
a
felt
big
something
boy.
pop. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean
felt
that's a
something
lot
pop.
of weight.
Something's wrong. And so again, it could have been one of those. And I've had a very severe ankle sprain before, where like things crunched and popped, and you're just like, okay, and you're just laying there like this is terrible. So I can relate, and I feel like that's hopefully all it really was. But man, but again, just going back to like, what the hell can this team do to escape this just dark cloud? Like again, you get your guy back, and then boom, this happens, and on the same, and so and it kind of sucked, but
Just start getting runs, 4 to
Owen
5 runs
Caissie's
a game.
back. I have no high hopes for Caissie, honestly, right out of this, but dude making his debut is a huge boost. That's a bunch of energy that it brings to the whole club. Maybe that's the kind of
what
thing
does he do to the clubhouse, right?
Right.
Like that's really what you need to do. It's like you just look and the clubhouse has got to be a little mopey.
Yeah, they get all excited for him. I mean, it is though. Look at him. I mean, look at the first game of the series and look at how PCA was just staring at. We got one of my posts I wrote about the offense. You can see the picture of him, just 1,000-yard stare. Kyle Tucker looks like he's lost up there. A lot of these guys are going up. Seiya Suzuki is, and he got one out, so starting to come back around a little bit. Michael Bush,
they all look like they just lost their dog.
Yes, and that's
dog is gone, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, hey, getaway day. Get the young kid up, get him in the lineup, like shake things up a little bit. Because that's the thing. A lot of people keep crapping on Ian Happ, but Happ's been one of their best hitters here in the second half. So for the last roughly month or so, Willie Castro has not been. Willie Castro's been awful, and he needs to start picking it up. But like PCA, Bush, Suzuki, and Tucker, those are 4 of your top 5 hitters. Those guys all have been bad, like bad for the last, other than, again, Tucker taking his walk. So you fix that. Even if it's just 2 of those guys getting back on a heater and things look decidedly different than what they do currently, and we could be having an entirely different conversation in a week or 2.
I hope.
I hope it's just me that froze up. I don't know. If you're talking, I don't even know.
That is great. That's a great way to end the show. Just like freeze up.
Yeah. Just be done. I was like, well, okay,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Anyways, thanks for joining us, everybody. It was good. Go Cubs. Hopefully they win today and build some momentum this week against the Pirates. Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you, everybody.
Peace.